Alright, I'm back with part 2 of my Elden Ring gameplay showcase breakdown. If you didn't catch part 1 from a few days ago, be sure to check out that video first, in which I covered the initial 6 to 7 minutes of the November 4th gameplay showcase, and in today's follow-up, I'm covering the remaining 11 minutes of gameplay footage, and we're picking up exactly where we left off. Along with part 1, this was recorded on the afternoon of November 4th, so these are my genuine, authentic first impressions of the footage, and my aim was just to have fun, take it all in, and discuss which elements and moments struck me most, especially in terms of combat and design. And I know everyone's going crazy over the network test right now, but I do want to finish this breakdown and give this showcase the appropriate attention it deserves, because as far as Elden Ring goes, this game many of us have been anticipating for years, this was a huge drawing back of the curtain. But quickly, before we dive into part 2, at the beginning of part 1, I laid out my new content strategy for all of you. You know, now that I'm a big deal and part of the YouTube Partner Program, I feel it's only right I retire these in-depth analysis videos and begin strictly focusing on more important things, like Bloodborne 2 and Bloodborne to PC rumors. Clearly, this is unprecedented territory, someone covering Bloodborne rumors on YouTube, and I got a lot of great feedback. You were all very excited, especially about my new thumbnails with all the circles and arrows, and I'm glad to hear it. But the more I thought about it, I figured, look, why pigeonhole myself? Why limit my genius? So I've decided to proceed instead with a two-pronged content strategy. That's right, in addition to my Bloodborne rumor content, the other 50% of my YouTube content moving forward will be mind-blowing lore videos. Again, a completely untapped subject on YouTube. I'm fairly certain I will actually be the first person to ever speculate about the lore in From Software's games. And I thought, what better way to get things going than to do a tetralogy, now that's a 4-part series if you didn't know, on, wait for it, Bloodborne's Pebble. Look, there's a lot more to the pebble than meets the eye, and that's precisely what my 4-part, 4-hour-long series will explore. We're going to go way beyond the 3 sentences that appear in the Pebble's in-game item description, and trust me, I have some crazy theories for you. I've been working on my dramatic reading voice too. It's coming along really well. So, yep, combat and design are out, and lore and rumors are in. So hang tight, stay posted, and get ready for a Pebble deep dive. But for now, on to the Elden Ring breakdown. For your reference, I'm jumping back in at the 7-minute and 16-second mark of Bandai Namco's official video upload of the showcase, and all of my impressions are based on the 4K version of that video. And at the end, I'll also close with some final thoughts about the showcase, about the community's reaction to the showcase, and about the pre-order editions as well. But here we go, back into the footage. Okay, look at these colors. All the shades of orange. What a beautiful palette. And these windmills in the distance, a little Earthen Peak callback maybe. And who's this sitting over here by the bonfire? I like the look of that hide cloak and that little pointed hat. So they're showing us co-op summoning, and here is simply one of the best moments in the entire showcase. Little to no fall damage. In my opinion, From Software just figured out movement and jumping and a lack of fall damage in Sekiro, and I love to see them running with that in Elden Ring. That was always my hope, that just like DS3 benefited from the influence of Bloodborne, that Elden Ring would similarly benefit from the influence of Sekiro. I want to take a moment to address the jumping animation, because I've seen some complaints about that as well, and I understand where people are coming from. The animation does look a bit stiff because there's no wind up. The player character just kind of vaults up and into the air, whereas in real life, when you jump, you're pushing down, you're pushing off the ground. There's a bit of a wind up, a spring effect. Watch professional volleyball or basketball players, the way they lift off the ground. And that's what's lacking in this jump animation. However, I think I understand why it's lacking. Because it would take longer. There would be a slight lag between your input and your player character jumping. And given what I know about Miyazaki's philosophy on game design, a little realism isn't worth input lag. It's just not. I mean, look at the sick, fluid, complex combat animations this studio creates. They're fully capable of animating a realistic jump, but I suspect they purposely chose not to. It's that Miyazaki prioritizes high-quality minute-to-minute gameplay over everything else, including realism. And if that means the jump animation is a bit stiff and silly and bouncy, oh well, does it feel good? Is it responsive in the heat of the moment? Based on this footage, I believe the answer is yes. And that's why I respect Miyazaki so much. That's why he's my favorite game director, because he doesn't compromise and he doesn't shy away from the fact that these are video games. He's not creating an interactive movie here. He's creating a game, and he leans into those gamey aspects. I love that. And you might say, well, attack animations, especially heavy attacks and weapon skills, often have a few second lag between the input and the execution of the move. And that's different. Often in combat, that delay is the trade-off. You're trying to deal heavy damage, but that comes at a price, a few second long windup. And I would argue that in Elden Ring, jumping serves a different function. I suspect it would feel pretty annoying if jumping were laggy. The game would be less fun and responsive to play, and I imagine the FromSoft team even experimented with this during development. Again, Miyazaki is always going to lean into what feels good, gameplay first, and he may even be willing to risk breaking the immersion for certain players with a slightly stiff animation in order to do this. So with that theory in mind, I'm fine with this jump animation. And if a vocal minority continues to complain about little things like this, whatever, have at it. Oh, and gestures include audio calls now too. That's interesting. Oh my god, these trees, they're gorgeous. Oh my god, does that enemy have a bunch of tentacles hanging off of his face? I really feel like I'm here in the thick of this forest. I feel very immersed by the colors and what appear to be dynamic shadows. Come on, why are these two players sneaking by all of these awesome enemies? Come on, fight. I want to see more action. God, that's an enormous tree trunk, too. Trees are clearly such a big part of this game world. All right, the summons is getting ready, giving us a little Tiger Woods fist pump. Oh man, a dark fantasy Gyobu. Oh my god, that club-like axe he's swinging is insane. I want that weapon for myself. That thing looks like it wrecks. The narrator calls him a boss. The HUD is clearly disabled in this footage, so I do wonder if this is indeed a proper boss or just sort of a Sekiro-style mini-boss. Oh sure, his mount is just casually breathing fire, of course. Oh my god, that shield. That shield is as sick as the axe. And he's bashing with it, not just blocking, but attacking. Check out those bone-looking fingers at the bottom of it. Man, what a cool spell. That makes me think of Aldrich, his arrow attack. I love the way that cloud looks, hanging above the enemy. A slight delay before DPS starts raining from the sky. And then the player character decides to run right into this mess and take a hit. I actually like how the players for this footage are a little clumsy and are purposely taking hits and stuff. I think that's better to see overall than if the player was speed running or something. It helps make the game feel approachable. Oh my god, the axe is imbued with red lightning. Oh, and check out the move by the co-op summons here. Super reminiscent of the dragon headstone from DS3, but it looks way more effective here. Ah, that spell looks so good. I believe we saw that same spell being casted in the SGF trailer. Just based on visuals alone, some of these magic attacks look really serious, like way improved from some of what we previously had at our disposal. I'm not big on magic builds, but they can be really cool, and I'd love to see a lot of build variety in Elden Ring as far as the community goes. People who want to do a strict mage build should be able to hang with the speedy melee-based dex types. They should be able to, and I hope there's really good balancing. So this scene is certainly showing off the verticality of this game world. We have a church-style building up top, but instead the player character goes down below into some catacombs. Now we've seen these sideways tombstone-looking platforms before. I suspect functionally they're used for just that, for platforming. but I do wonder if there's some lore behind them. What are they? What do they represent? Why are some of them not vertical, but jutting out of cliff sides? See, that's what I was saying earlier about the death sound effect when the wyvern swooped in. It's that same classic door opening animation. I love to see it. And the eerie ambient music here, I think it's great. We don't even have that much context, and it's already building such tension. Skeleton's gotta make sure he's got his head fastened on nice and tight. We see the torch here, and like I said when I was breaking down the SGF trailer back in June, I hope we need to rely on an additional light source in certain caves and dungeons. I hope certain areas are just black, like terrifyingly dark. I hope they play around with that. Oh yeah, fun houses are back. This is calling to mind Sen's Fortress. Honestly, though, this underground area as a whole is reminding me less of the catacombs of Karthus, for example, and more of Bloodborne's Chalice dungeons. This feels cool. And I don't know if this is an NPC or co-op summons. I don't know exactly who this crazy helmed guy is, but he's got dual claws. Claws are back, baby. If you watch my channel, you might know that I really love me some claws, some crow talons. This style of weapon is just so much fun to use. Sometimes it's not about optimizing, it's just about wearing and wielding stuff that looks and feels good. Yeah, this is super Chalice dungeon-y. Ooh, cutscene time. Fully synced mouths at last. Bluepoint did a great job with that in the Demon's Souls remake, and I'm glad to see it here. I'm digging the cinematic qualities too, the depth of field. This cutscene looks good. Oh, she looks so much cooler than I imagined. Awesome hair color, that scarred eye. So this is Melina, presumably the hub maiden of Elden Ring. It actually looks like they may have cut two separate cutscenes together here so that she introduces herself and also says the "I offer you an accord" line. I also dig the line about us being a traveler from beyond the fog. That's very reminiscent of Demon's Souls. So she's Melina. The queen is Marika, and we know from the game's collector's editions that the red-haired Valkyrie is Melania or Melina. Not totally sure about the pronunciation. And we know that she's wielding the blade of Miquella. So lots of female characters with similar sounding M names. So my first guess would be that they're family. Perhaps Marika is the mother and these are her three daughters. Melina has this claw-looking scar over her left eye, and her hair is paler than that of the Valkyries, who also has an impairment. Her arm is missing and apparently detachable. We know Marika's children are demigods, the ones possessing these great runes, these shards of the Elden Ring. There's a lot to speculate about here. Is Miquella missing or deceased? Have the other two daughters, or possibly her daughters, are they still aligned with the queen? Is the queen evil? Did the daughters rebel and break away, and does that at all explain their impairments? Or are those impairments related to the shattering of the Elden Ring? Can Melina be completely trusted? What are her motives? And if this is the case, it could mean that throughout the game, we'll essentially be dealing with another family, kind of like we did in the Dark Souls trilogy with Gwyn and his offspring. Some were bosses, some were Covenant NPCs. It was a complex situation, and this may be as well. I wouldn't be surprised if these were some of George R.R. Martin's contributions to the game, these characters and their backstories. Stormveil Castle in the Limgrave region. This is probably one of what FromSoft has called the game's legacy dungeons. The architecture here is very unique too, unlike any other castle we've seen before in the Soulsborne games. I'm a big fan of all the birds we see in this world fluttering around. Again, it just builds that atmosphere. Oh, we're bold. If that was a site of grace, if that was a checkpoint, we just skipped it. Who needs it? We're not planning to die in here. Check out this creeper. It's cool to see we're still very much going to be stumbling upon NPCs throughout this game world, unexpectedly bumping into all kinds of figures who may help us or hurt us, who knows. So he doesn't want us to take the main gate into the castle, and instead wants us to crawl through some rat hole. His mouth seems to be kind of randomly opening and closing, not synced in the way that it was in the cutscene. That's unfortunate, but as always, my priorities are design and combat, and I'd much rather FromSoft continue to deliver new games to us every 2 to 3 years with best-in-class gameplay, and if little things like this are part of that trade-off, I'm cool with it. You have to choose your battles as a developer, and you have to choose your battles even as a gamer, too. That's how I see it. Oh, and we say no thanks. Not only do we not need the checkpoint, but we're not crawling through any holes either. We're walking right in the front door. This just reeks of a trap. You see the corpses, the glowing items. Nah, I'm all about being bold, but this ain't it. That makes me think of the arrow machine in Demon Souls Prison of Hope. Oh, we're chugging. We're chugging for the first time. It's hard to get a good look at the item, but it seems like a flask of some kind. The player character's animation suggests they're eating or drinking something. Oh my god, this is what I've been saying about weapon skills! I'm pretty sure that was a weapon skill. I don't think those are summonable spirits. That was a quick weapon change too. That really makes me think that we might keep a certain weapon on us and ready to go just for its skill, especially something that can be used at range like that. If you watch my channel, you know I'm a huge Doom fan, and I'm not about to suggest that we're going to be weapon swapping in Elden Ring like we do in Doom Eternal, but just use your imagination here for a moment and picture having a couple key items equipped at all times, all unique from one another, all with different skills. And imagine having that arsenal mastered and, yes, to some degree, swapping relatively quickly between different items during battle. That idea that there will be different tools suited for different jobs. I need this game. I need it now. The game's looking really nice here too. It's not Demon Souls on PS5. This is a game that's rooted in last-gen hardware and software, but I think based on what we're seeing here, the PS5, PC, Series X versions will be pretty nice on the eyes. And a solid 60 FPS it looks like at that, which is awesome. Gotta have that. These guys look a little Slave Knight Gale inspired. He's got weapon skills of his own. That's cool AI. Love to see that we're encouraged to guard with our melee weapon, that's more fleshed out here than it was in previous games. That spray of blood was awesome too. Oh yeah, this is full-on Elden Ring platforming. I do hope there's at least a few stupidly crazy platforming sections in this world. I hope there are. Ooh, caught off guard with the backstab. Hate to see it. Oh, okay, so we saw this area in the SGF trailer as well, but from below. Really cool room. I don't think that's the many-armed king down there. I think it may just be a large enemy type. It's hard to say. You know, the more I look at that painting at the end of the room, the more I realize it's the same image from the Steelbook that was available for pre-order, I think at least through Best Buy. I'm not sure if any other retailers were selling this Steelbook, but I wonder if this is the king, Marika's husband. Could that mean he's the many-armed king's father? Not entirely sure. I do wonder if he has a pet lion, or even cooler, was he able to transform into a lion, or is a lion just his sigil or something? I don't know, but this vibe is very, very cool. And the body horror elements with these limbs and the hooks, it's so good, that environmental storytelling. You know that many-armed king is waiting for us. Oh yeah, this is now giving me High Wall, Gates of Boletaria vibes. And there's that platforming again. I love it. I don't know, not everybody is going to care. Some people will find the platforming to be annoying. They didn't like it in the painted world of Ariandel and Sen's Fortress and so on. But I've always had a soft spot for some silly Soulsborne platforming, and this looks good. So I'm currently playing through Dusk, the retro-style pixel shooter that was ported to Switch just a week or so ago. And one thing while playing Dusk I've realized I really appreciate in game design is when a game has like its own laws of physics that govern the world. And whether they're realistic or not, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that they're intriguing enough and fleshed out enough that it makes you wonder, wait a minute, if I try this, will it work? I've had so many moments like that while playing Dusk, like stacking random boxes and barrels to reach high places, and when you actually try something like that in a game and it works, that's so rewarding, that's so engaging. And I hope that Elden Ring has those moments, particularly with the jumping and platforming and vertical design, where it's like, can I jump up there? Can I do that? And maybe you try it and die miserably, but sometimes maybe you try it and it works. That would be so cool. That idea that there's multiple ways to go about a dungeon or a situation in the game world. Oh my god, this place is vast. I can't wait to explore this. The narrator reminds us here that dungeons can be explored and completed in various ways, and that does add so much replayability because you're going to have your speedrunning routes through certain dungeons, but if you're playing more casually, you might not want to do that. You might want to check out every nook and cranny. You might want to backtrack, hunt for secrets, and I bet there's awesome loot, as in armor sets and weapons in places like this. So we meet Roger the sorcerer here. He's got a great hat, I'll give him that. And he tells us that this place is crawling with tarnished hunters. Oh my god. So we know that our player character is a descendant of these people who were banished from the lands between a long time ago, and now that the Elden Ring has shattered and chaos is unfolding across the world, we're beckoned back to our ancestors' homeland. And my suspicion is that perhaps our banishment ironically protected us from the ill effects of the shattering, and now it's up to us if we choose to become the hero of this land. But this idea that hunters are specifically tracking Tarnished, and Roger using the term grafting, I know that's like British slang for working hard, like manual labor, but I wonder if, given the location here, he means like grafting in a medical sense, like tissue transplanting, like maybe that goes back to some of the severed limbs we saw hanging by hooks in that chamber earlier. I don't know, pure speculation. But this is a neat little NPC encounter. Oh, sick. You also notice how this is a relatively spacious area, but we're fighting like two enemies. That's great to see. A good use of space, smart enemy placement, no iron keep situation here, you know, 50 cut and paste Alon Knights coming at you. Nice old school parry into the riposte. Beautiful. So in addition to the new guard countering mechanic, we also still have parrying. I will be curious to get into the game and, with the same weapon, actually try to measure the difference in attack power between a parry into a riposte and a successful guard counter, as well as the difference in overall stamina cost, which would probably vary depending on the power of the oncoming attack you attempt to absorb with your guard. But I'm wondering why you might choose to do one over the other, or maybe it's just about having options. You guard counter because it's cool and convenient and fun to do. I don't know. In terms of guard countering, I highly doubt we're going to be blocking bullets and blazing bullhorns and stuff, but it does seem like Sekiro's DNA is all over this game. The fact that there's little to no stamina restrictions outside of combat, and that, like Sekiro's posture meter, stamina only kicks in during combat, that should feel really good. And now with guard countering, there's that dramatic and cinematic element of being able to meet another enemy toe to toe, blade to blade, just being able to raise your sword and properly protect yourself with it. That's so cool and intuitive. See, and here's another example of where you could continue down those stairs and follow the pathway, or say forget it and just vault over this ledge and go in a completely different direction. That's fun. Freedom has become a very generic and overused term when discussing open world games, but you can truly see what Katao and Miyazaki have been talking about with this footage. Play how you want. Go where you want, different tools for different jobs, tons of options and flexibility in general. It's good stuff. For these reasons, Elden Ring might not have as distinct of an identity or as curated of a vibe as Bloodborne or Sekiro, but that's okay. I can't overstate my excitement for Elden Ring, but I'm also not expecting a perfect be-all end-all experience. It's not like I'm going to stop playing the other 6 games after Elden Ring releases. That's how FromSoft games work. They all have unique strengths and ingredients. You have to experience them all, and in my opinion, you're missing out if you don't. And Elden Ring's identity is probably going to be that it's this big free-for-all in this colorful open world. And the more I watch this footage, the more I'm okay with that. The more I'm excited for what this game is going to be and going to offer. The golden fog gate is amazing. I love that. And a slightly new fog gate sound effect too. And they're treating us to the full cutscene we got a glimpse at in the SGF trailer. He seems to almost be worshipping this dead or stone dragon, claiming they're kindred. Very interesting. He also clearly has 6 fingers, whatever that means. I always love when we sort of stumble in on a boss character. Right away I think of Gascoigne hacking up corpses in the cemetery outside the tomb of Odin. Like we catch him off guard in the act, and this has that feel to it. The silence, just the wind blowing, it's so good. And just like he has 6 fingers, he appears to have 6 extra arms coming off of his back. And the arm farthest to the right appears to be wielding an additional battle axe. Godrick already feels like a classic From Software boss. He's got all the ingredients. We're buffing our blade, and instantly Yuka Kitamura is going full Ludwig on us. This soundtrack, this boss theme, oh my god. So we tried a guard counter, but whiffed, missed everything. I wonder if we always get that sound effect in visual cue when we're able to attempt a counter. And I wonder if, similar to parrying, certain moves can be guarded and countered while others cannot. Makes me think of how perilous attacks and Mikiri counters were handled in Sekiro. For example, in the SGF trailer during the battle with the Fungal Lord, it appears that the tarnished player character goes into the guard stance, coming out of a roll, absorbs a physical attack, but we don't see the player character actually counter, we only see the guard here. So maybe the inputs are simple, that hitting L1 with a melee weapon will always block an oncoming attack just like a shield would. And then R1 performs the counter only if you choose to do so. But then what purpose would shields serve? Perhaps they are more effective at guarding and don't allow enemies to deplete as much of your stamina? It's hard to say, but back to my point, when the Fungal Lord uses what appears to be a summonable magic hammer, we see the player character use an evasive roll. They don't even attempt to guard counter that, maybe because it wouldn't work, maybe it only works against physical strikes. This is interesting to speculate about. Guard countering could definitely be another welcome risk versus reward mechanic in Elden Ring's combat system. Those beautiful flowers keep catching my eye. Oh my god, Godrick's animations, he's so fast. This is so intense, especially if this is meant to be an early game boss. Okay, we're scared and we're summoning a spirit. Godrick couldn't care less. He's hitting us with the AoE. Okay, he wrecks the spirit, but we time the weapon skill well and hit him. But he's so fast, oh my god. And instead of a beast arm, he's got a dragon arm. Is he using the statue or the frozen dragon we saw from the beginning? This must be second phase. Oh, this is incredible. This is everything I wanted. I mean, he's flipping around like Gale or something. You would think this was a late game or DLC boss based on the previous games. And he's laughing. He's frying us. That's it. Game over. Wow, wow, wow. And that's the gameplay showcase. So those are my first impressions of full-on Elden Ring gameplay. In short, I loved basically everything on display, and the few things that underwhelmed me a bit, like some instances of clipping, the jumping animation, the sort of clumsy non-cutscene lip syncing, a number of things like that. I discussed how I feel that I can live with them and that there are likely pretty clear-cut explanations behind these things, and I'll always value minute-to-minute gameplay over everything else, like realism and a certain level of cinematic polish, let's say, as long as the gameplay is fun and fluid and offers a skill-based learning curve, as long as the art direction is inspired and interesting. Something like a slightly awkward jumping animation is, in my opinion, very forgivable. The music, aesthetics, armor sets, weapon skills, guard countering, the Godrick boss battle, I am in awe of all of these elements. I knew Hidetaka Miyazaki would direct a great game, but now that I've seen it in action, any major concerns I had about the open world design and a possible lack of curation, that's all been squashed for me. I'm really pleased. I can tell that Elden Ring is going to be a blast to play. I anticipate this is going to be a game that I'll be exploring and experimenting with for years to come. Those starting classes too for the network test, you could make the case that these are the coolest looking starting builds From Software has ever produced. I do hope this game has a robust and healthy PvP scene. I hope they don't limit the PvP experience too much, but I would guess that Elden Ring, like most of From Software's previous games, will receive an update or full DLC at some point, and perhaps if the community generally doesn't respond to the PvP experience on offer, that From Software can add more options at a later date. But I sense that the Soulsborne community at large shares my feelings for the most part. Most people, most fans seem to be very happy, very excited about what they've seen. But look, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I'm a big proponent of us civilly and respectfully sharing our opinions, even when we disagree, because those disagreements can lead to interesting and insightful discussions. And if Elden Ring doesn't appeal to you, okay. If you're just not interested, alright, you do you. But I have noticed that there's a vocal minority, people who are criticizing Elden Ring and disparagingly referring to it as Dark Souls 4, and posting videos that complain about some of the game's reused animations. And some of these people have clearly made it their mission to take to Twitter and YouTube and tell other people why Elden Ring sucks and is overhyped and that you're a fool if you're buying into it. As a gamer, if you harbor that much disdain for the Souls games and for what you've seen of Elden Ring thus far, I don't know, man. Like, of all the lackluster games and greedy and corrupt publishers and developers out there, if you've taken everything into consideration and the bone you have to pick is with Hidetaka Miyazaki and From Software, I can't relate to you. I just can't. The stuff we saw in this showcase, the map, the stealth mechanics, the open world design, the colorful aesthetics, the mounted combat and traversal, the jumping and verticality, the interchangeable weapon skills, none of these things is in any Souls game to date. So I just don't understand the Dark Souls 4 comments. Like, if you watched this entire showcase, all the stuff I just mentioned, that wild boss battle at the end with Godrick, if you take in all 18 minutes of footage and all you have to say is, there's a reused animation, I don't know what to tell you. Because again, I can't relate. I'm too busy focusing on all of the awesome aspects of the game. I see that with my own videos sometimes. I'll post a thoughtful, articulate 20-minute video essay, and 99% of the feedback will be positive and interesting and keep the discussion going. But then there's always that 1%, those few trolls who will cherry pick one sentence and attempt to twist and distort it and try to make themselves sound smart and try to make me sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Again, it's fine to dislike things, it's fine to disagree with other people, but there's a certain type of negativity that I just can't relate to. So, like I said, if that's you, have at it, I guess. Meanwhile, I'm going to have fun with this game. I'm going to enjoy the work of Hidetaka Miyazaki because I feel fortunate to be here and alive and able to play his games as they release, as he and his studio are in their prime. It's a special thing, and I don't take it for granted. Lastly, a couple people were asking me if I snagged a pre-order, and I did. I pre-ordered the collector's edition for PS5 from GameStop. The whole package is awesome, the steelbook, the statue, but I really wanted the art book. That was the main attraction for me. And the soundtrack too, because I'm not sure if the full soundtrack will be available on Spotify or YouTube right away, so it'll be great to have that music on hand. And I actually think, given the cost of the game and the value of the art book and the statue and so on, I don't think the collector's edition was a bad deal. I'm usually very put off by most pre-orders and special editions of games. I think most are needless ripoffs, but I do make an exception for From Software games, and I've always felt that they and their publishing partners have done a good job in this department. I almost went for the premium collector's edition, but what would I do with that helmet? It's sick, don't get me wrong, but I already have too much stuff. But I'm ready to hear from you. Tell me down in the comments what you thought of the second half of this gameplay showcase. What are you most fired up about? What caught your eye? What prompted your imagination as you were watching this footage? And did you snag a pre-order? And if you copped a premium collector's edition, I want to know what you're going to do with that helmet. Are you going to display it, wear it to work, go grocery shopping in it? As always, remember you can also connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, in my Discord server, Terapop's Treehouse, and on Patreon, which is the best way to further support what I do and also to receive a lot of extra exclusive content from me every single month, like my Patreon podcast, my Patreon newsletter, early video previews, behind the scenes posts. All those links are down in the video description. So thank you for watching, be well, and I'll catch you next time.